Alright guys, this next video is about the dividends paid and that is on the two different kinds of shares, which are ordinary shares and preference shares. So the dividend, the total dividend or the total amount of money that an ordinary shareholder gets depends on the number of shares that they have and the dividend per share that the company decided they were going to share out. So we actually had an example of that in the previous video, the dividend per share video. Right at the end I chucked in a little star at the end and I used this formula there, so I'm not going to do it again. Just check out that video. If you're an ordinary shareholder, the dividend, the total amount of money you get is going to be the number of shares you have times by the dividend per share that the company decided it would give you. So in the previous example, the shareholder had 1,000, so I'll just write that up here, 1,000 shares, and the dividend per share we worked out was 3.25 cents, so I'll just write that in there, 0.0325, and when you do 1,000 times by 0.0325, the person ends up with a dividend of $32.50. Okay, and we said that was advantageous because they don't lose the shares. They just get this money basically for sitting on those shares. So that was in the previous video. However, there's another type of share which we know as preference shares. And the reason why they're called preference shares will become clear in the next video. But basically, these are paid out before profits are given to ordinary shareholders. So sometimes the whole profit is not actually divvied out, like in the previous video's example. Sometimes the company will hold on to it for more investment or for tax purposes, and then the profit will be less. But the preference shareholders will always get a specific share, and the way that these are worked out are calculated below. So these are calculated slightly differently, and they still depend on the number of shares held, but there's a new element here. They also depend on the par value of the preference share, so the company sets a par value for these preference shares, and a dividend rate percentage. So the formula for this you'll find in this blue box. The dividend paid to preference shareholders is going to be number of shares held, that's similar to before, but this time it's times by the par value, which is the value that the company has said the shares should be worth, times by the dividend rate as a decimal. Okay, because it has to be a decimal because dividend rate is a percentage. So we'll scroll down here and use the example. I'm using the one from the book again because they wrote it out wrong. So div paid to preference, so I'm shortening some of these words, pref shareholders is going to be the number of shares that they have, 17,200, times by the par value that the company set on them is $2, times by the dividend rate as a decimal, and 6% is 0.06, so it's going to be just get my calculator out, 17,200 times by 2, total par value $34,400, but the book does this weird thing making it like $0.12. Do not do that. 0.06 is the percentage as a decimal, and then 34400 times by 0.06 is 2064. So this preference shareholder with 17,200 preference shares that have a par value of $2 and getting a 6% dividend will get a dividend of $2,064. So that is how you calculate the dividend paid to preference shareholders. In the previous video there was the dividend paid to ordinary shareholders, and I will see you in the next video.